Midweek Madness. Domonique Foxworth, what has you mad on this Wednesday?
Oh, yeah, this ridiculous, unserious Cardinals game had me mad. And then, of course, the coach, Jonathan Gannon, slapping people in his chest. That was horrible and upsetting. However, we could have avoided all of this if the refs would have just made the right call. This is a touchdown. They reviewed it and tried to say it wasn't a touchdown. He had possession of the ball. I'm more angry at that than this. He apologized. You took $100K. Although I do think they should get $100K to DeMarcado. Like that. I'm getting $1,000. Give it to the man who was hurt.
The class action lawsuit. Peter, what has you mad today?
I know a lot of different games happen, and Drake May and Trevor Lawrence played well. How about the two-point conversion? Can we give some love to the call to go for two on the road against the division champions and say we're not leaving this up to the kickers? Sean Payton's decision to go for two might have changed the entire tide in the AFC West. And we're not even talking about it this week.
I agree. No, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. That was a gutsy, I almost said a different word, a gutsy decision by Sean Payton. But I caught myself. Jeffrey, what's got you mad today?
Kickoffs, kicking out of bounds. You got one job, bro. One job. 55 yards, man, wide. Like, can we keep it in bounds? This is devastating. What are we? We've had 8 of these this season. We've made it so simple. It's like a little pooch kick now, and we're kicking it out of bounds. Like, stop getting cute. Kick the ball in there. Let it happen. I mean, the one for the Chiefs the other night, it crushed me.
It turns the whole game.
And now we're showing the Colts crushing me even more. Get it off the television.
Finally, Lewis, what has you mad?
Look, I think I'm with you now, Greeny. I think now I'm getting disgusted with these Jets. Okay, you cannot have a football team have 3/5 of their starting offensive line out, and you allow 6.2 yards per carry, 180 total yards. You have 10 penalties again. After having 10 penalties the week before, you still haven't won. You're inconsistent on offense. Look, it's time to start making some examples of people there.
Listen,
it's time to start cutting folks, man.
I'll tell you what has me mad. Who chose the word mediocrity? We aspire to mediocrity with the Jets. Mediocrity would be an enormous step in the right direction.
That's a compliment.
The topic bar should be, the Jets suck. That's what it should say. All right, well, let's face it. They're the only 0-5 team in the league, and they just played the worst game of the entire NFL season. But I digress. Our next stop is Cincinnati, where the Bengals have a new quarterback. They've acquired Joe Flacco from the Browns, because I guess Brian Sipe wasn't available. So Jake Browning has really struggled since replacing Joe Burrow, throwing 8 interceptions over parts of 4 games. Let's face it, the Bengals have been non-competitive since Joe Burrow got hurt. So this is the very rare in-division, in-state quarterback trade. So there's a lot to unpack here. Kimberly will have the Cleveland side of it in a second because she's got their game. How about the Cincinnati side of it? Should we expect to see Flacco play for them?
Yeah, I think he could start this weekend. He could start this weekend against Green Bay. I think that is a strong possibility. They're bringing in Joe Flacco because he is exactly that quarterback that can do it on no times preparation. He knows all these defenses. He actually played Green Bay earlier this season.
It's true.
And he would be the first quarterback in NFL history since 1962, Jack Kemp, Buffalo Bills, to beat the same team twice in 2 different uniforms. He would be doing it as a as a Browns quarterback, then a Bengals quarterback. But Zach Taylor and the front office, Duke Tobin, they were not calling all different teams. They were not calling for Russell Wilson. They were not calling for Jameis Winston. They wanted Joe Flacco specifically because he can do this on short times rest, and he can get thrown into the mix, and he can carry the load. Whatever you think of Joe Flacco, 6th team, 41 years old, he can play if you need him.
You guys had a lot, pardon me, of immediate reaction to this as far as the fit, as far as the scheme, as far as the offensive line. Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, he needs to ask for a pay raise right now. Before the first game, you're going to put me in there behind that offensive line. Help me, pay me for whatever bodily damage I'm about to suffer and incur, which will be significant. I mean, he's 41. He doesn't move. They couldn't protect Burrow, who can move. They didn't protect Browning. They have to have a change in philosophy. I'm not, all joking aside, you better make sure you protect them. Joe Flacco didn't light it up in Cleveland, and they're better up front than Cincinnati is. And their tackles were struggling, and Flacco was in panic mode. I don't care who you are as a quarterback. You start getting hit, your eyes drop down. He has better receivers in Cincinnati. I understand that, in Higgins and Chase. but his body better be protected if they want him to go more than 2 weeks, because they get hit entirely too much in Cincinnati. That doesn't just change because you replace the quarterback.
Yeah, look, their 32nd pass block win rate.
What number is that?
That's 32.
There's only
32
30
teams.
Thank you.
Only 32
teams of them.
Okay, and this is the classic case of, like I said in the meeting, about don't mistake activity for achievement. Yeah, they made a move, but you're not really achieving anything. And that's not being disrespectful to Joe. Joe just can't move. It's just as simple as that.
Not disrespectful.
I mean,
he can't move.
But he can.
You said
I don't love anything as much as Joe Flacco loves football. Because, like, you won a Super Bowl, bruh. You're like, you done it all. You made the money. Don't go to another city in Ohio to get your brains beat in. Like, maybe you can pull off the upset again, but they don't have that Browns defense to help them knock off Cleveland.
I have to say, while I don't know if this is going to accomplish it or not, I admire at least they're trying. The Bengals are trying to keep their season afloat on the hope that maybe there's some chance Burrow makes it back. So
See Louis Riddick's comment.
I understand that, but at least they tried something. This is what they think will work. Rather than just running the same thing back out there.
Of course.
Now, Kmart, the entire world will look at this, and you have Browns Steelers this weekend. A lot of the people will look at this and say, where does this leave? You got Dylan Gabriel, you got Shedeur now. What's the situation in Cleveland?
So here's the thing. Everybody's thinking, well, Shedeur just moves up automatically, right? Technically, he is number 2 on the unofficial depth chart. They still have Bailey Zappi on the practice squad. So Kevin Stefanski will be asked today, is Shedeur the number 2 or is he going to be the 3rd again? And Kevin has to explain what his reasoning is, because there is a scenario where Bailey Zappi could be elevated from the practice squad to be the backup. We need Kevin Stefanski to confirm for everyone what his plan is. I do think that in an ideal world, Kevin Stefanski would want to take things slow with Shedeur, give him a week of preparation. That's for any of these rookie quarterbacks. Keep in mind, Kevin's plan was not for Joe Flacco not to be in the building. The Browns were not looking to let go of Joe Flacco. They thought he would still be here, but when the opportunity arose, when the Bengals called late Monday, that sort of got them thinking, okay, we can get something for him, and we know Andrew Berry loves draft compensation.
Yeah, that just sounds so ridiculous. And I get your point. And I was at that game. We did that game between Baltimore and Cleveland when Bailey Zappi started. Okay, I was there. But look, they're in developmental mode now. They're in future mode. They're in future projection mode. You don't need to see what Bailey Zappi can do. Right. Okay, you need to go ahead and elevate Shedeur to number 2, get him number 2 reps, however many that is, and you're one play away. And then you figure out what you have at quarterback, then you see what happens in 26. Let's stop messing. Look, we talked about this last time I was on the show. Why are we even messing around with Joe Flacco being the number 2 quarterback? He needed to be shipped out of there right away and move forward.
I would argue that Bailey Zappi throwing in there on an injury in the middle of the game might be better for Shedeur than the other way. I think at some point this season we're going to get to a point where Shedeur is going to be the starter going into a game. And I would rather, if I'm Shedeur, I get it. I want to get on the field by any means necessary. But if I'm Shedeur, give me my week of preparation, design a game plan around what I do well, and put me out there on the first snap. Don't throw me out there after getting 2 snaps of practice all week and then determine how good I am off of that.
Because here's the thing. Think about what the Browns' offseason has been. They had all these quarterbacks. Remember Kenny Pickett? He was in their quarterback room. Joe Flacco got first-team reps. Kenny Pickett got first-team reps. And the 2 rookies that we're all looking at, how are they going to develop them? They got the least amount of reps. Shedeur got the least of anyone. So when you think about preparing him for this moment, a lot of people didn't even think Shedeur would still be on this roster. And now he's in line to, we think, start at some point this season if Dylan Gabriel falls.
They've traded a lot of quarterbacks out of Cleveland. They've traded 3 already. And Louis Riddick.
Yes, sir.
If I said Mac Jones should remain the 49ers starter, what say Lou?
Yeah, he should, as long as Brock Purdy isn't 100% healthy. You see how Mac is playing in this offense. You see why there was a lot of talk about Kyle Shanahan really liking Mac Jones when he came out in the draft. He is playing the way the position needs to be played within that offense. Look, it's Brock's team. Brock just got the new contract. He will assume the starting role when he comes back. But Mac right now is making a lot of people sit there and go, maybe he wasn't as bad as I thought he was. This guy can play.
He's going to make himself a lot of money.
No question.
How about if I said Travis Hunter should be a full-time wide receiver? What say Lou?
I say Travis Hunter should be a full-time mercenary, meaning whatever side of the ball they need him on that week, put him on. However you want to divvy up the reps in order to help them win football games, that's why they drafted him.
Yeah.
They drafted him because he has two-position versatility. If they need him to catch passes, do that. If they need him to shadow a number one, do that. If they need him to return punts, whatever it is, just use him to help them win football games. Jacksonville's got it going on right now.
Statement win on Monday night.
No doubt.
Finally, if I said Saquon Barkley is going to run for under 1,000 yards this year, which is the pace he's on, what say Lou?
Yeah, he definitely will. You keep giving him 6 totes a game. I mean, you'll run for about 600 yards, 700 yards. Look, I think there's a lot of things going on in Philadelphia, none of them which I believe has to do anything with Saquon's decline in skills or diminishing skills. The offensive line is different. The play caller is different. Every team is different. They are not the same offensive line up front as far as configuration. Yeah. He'll be fine, but I think we need to temper expectations for sure.
Well, so let's go into this thing here, okay? Speaking of Saquon, he and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts had a closed-door meeting at the beginning of this short week. Remember, they play tomorrow. Saquon and Hurts talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, we had a conversation, but I'm not going to speak too much on it. I feel like that conversation is meant to stay between us, but focus was all about the team, and I think it was a good thing.
Man, it's just us talking about the collective, talking about taking ownership for what we can, and talking about how we move forward as a team so we continue to find ways to win games. It's really just teammates being teammates.
What was your takeaway conclusion of the meeting?
I don't want to make this about that, right? We got a short week. We got a division opponent coming in here. I enjoyed every second of it.
The 4-1, the defending Super Bowl champs, and their 3 highest paid or not best known stars are having a team meeting on Monday of a short week. Jeff, what does that say?
Mountain out of a molehill, y'all. We're gonna make this thing all kinds of crazy. Let these men work this thing out. You got a brand new offensive coordinator. To Lou's point, offensive line is different. They haven't played nearly as well as they did last season. Everybody thinks they should scrap their offense, change their offense, do this. Only the problem is they've lost 1 game since, in 22 games. It's insanity how good this team has been, and you want to just crush it, change it, do whatever. Hopefully they got in a room where like, man, we got Stoutland, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of our game. He'll get it fixed. Saquon's a beast. He'll get it fixed. I trust A.J. Brown. I trust Smith. I trust Hurts. We will figure this out. Slow it down. Don't let the world infiltrate our world, and let's work together.
That's fair. Now, I will point out, Jeff and Nick put together a tape that we're going to show you a little later in the show of just why some of the things aren't working. But I can give you numbers. Cindy, let's go 21 and 22 back to back. The Eagles have 40 negative plays this season. 40. That is the most of any team in the National Football League. That's not people making it up. That's actually happened. And so has this. Saquon Barkley, in the second halves of games this season, is averaging 25 yards rushing. He was almost 78 yards rushing last year. Those are stark differences, Domonique, and the winning at some point depends on that.
And they lead the league in 3 and outs. So, I understand that the only thing that really matters is whether you win or lose. But you have to have a big picture view on this. And I understand Jeff said you don't want to make a mountain out of the molehill. This is a championship caliber team. Those stats are not commiserate with a championship caliber team. So they need to get on the same page. I think the meeting is a good idea. I understand that we don't think that meetings necessarily do anything, but getting on the same page means this one thing is the thing we need to do better. Not, I want this, I want that, you do this, you do that. We come, we talk, we fight, we yell, we sit down, we cry, whatever we gotta do. Understand that next week, we're gonna do this really well. Then we'll build on that. Just getting on the same page, I think is the most important thing.
They haven't played a complete game in 4 weeks, and that's the truth. They were slow out of the gates against the Rams, then they were terrible in the second half in the last 2 weeks against both the Buccaneers and the Broncos. And what's worrisome for me is that this isn't a team that's riddled with injuries. Yes, we have the offensive line guys are down, but you have your star players there. And when you look at the LA Chargers, they've lost everybody and they're trying to fight on. The 49ers, they've lost all these injuries. And that's when you start wondering who's going to step up. You're looking around, guys, less than 6 months ago, we won a Super Bowl together. So what's happening? And I would just add, that city, it's a different pressure cooker. They fired a defensive coordinator 2 years ago when they were 10-1. All this, it's a little different. The volume and the pressure is a little higher. And Lewis, in Philly, it's a little different with that media market as well.
Yeah, the thing that concerns me is when the news of this kind of meeting gets out, how does that get out in the first place? If I want to talk to some of my teammates, I should be able to do that, and we never even know.
Right.
Okay, because it's that important. These guys understand what it takes. They understand what championship performance looks like. And if we want to talk about that, we should be able to talk about that every day if we want to talk about it. We should have a meeting whenever we want to. I just don't like the fact that it kind of gets played out in the public domain, because that's when things start to fracture. Because that's when we talk about it, people look on TV and they're going, hey, is someone talking behind my back? Is someone kind of letting things leak out? That's when things can start to fracture. I hope as a collective, this group can kind of keep things together and keep things trending the right way. They don't have that one signature alpha that you talked about in the meeting that can kind of say, hey, look, everyone just shut up. This is how it's going to be. You don't really seem to have that one guy.
And last year, remember when they had the slow start and there was all this noise around them and everything else, and they had a bye and they had a summit. They literally called it a summit with Sirianni and Hurts. That was when this winning began. So sitting down and talking things through, at least in that team, in that situation, has worked in the past.
Yeah. No, and listen, there are reasons why they're struggling, and you showed them, right? Like, there are things that are different. But there are reasons from a player. Like Landon Dickerson, the offensive lineman, the left guard, he's been banged up. I thought they were going to lose him for the season. He's not the same guy, right? Lane Johnson's been banged up. You look at Stein, the replacement of Beck. There's a lot of things. Juergens isn't playing great, right? They're and teams are doing a little bit different things to them. When you average 4 yards before getting touched as a running back, your numbers are going to be insane, right? So, like, when you're trying to compare that, but here's the thing. All of that is fixable. None of the things is the players aren't going to be there. They will get it fixed. You just got to give them. We're 5 weeks in the season, and we're acting like it's over.